welcome. You're watching Medically Speaking. I'm Meenakshi Upreti. With me, Dr. Rajesh Malhotra. He is heading the COVID facility at the Trauma Center of the Elite AIIMS Institute in the National Capital. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Without much ado, sir, the very first question I'd like to ask you is obviously about this new variant. This was a time when we all were past the deadly second wave. Most of us were breathing a sigh of relief. But obviously, it's a wake-up call for all of us, isn't it, sir? Tell us a little bit about what we know till date about the Omicron variant and what really it means for our country, sir.
So thanks, Meenakshi, for having me on this program. And I think what everybody has been telling, that the COVID is not yet over. Somehow in our optimism, we chose to ignore. And by we, I mean the common public. Everything had opened up and we thought the worst was behind us. But you see, it's about evolution, right? We have evolved, so the virus continues to evolve. So now it has evolved into something which is actually far more transmissible than Delta. And it has brought together a very concerning and worrying combination of mutations. We had, say, South African variant, which was quite lethal. Then we had the Delta variant, which was very transmissible. And then we also knew that the South African variant could escape the immunity. It means that it could even infect people who had already had infection or who had vaccination. Particularly, we know that with mRNA vaccines, there were breakthrough infections with the South African variant. It was not very effective. So a combination naturally gives to a worry whether we are dealing with a virus now, which has actually got together the strong points of two different strains and is emerging to be a formidable opponent, which will be worse than Delta. But you see, one thing is very sure, as when the Delta came into being, it soon replaced the Alpha variant and the classical, the prevalent variant at that time. It is almost a given that it is highly likely that this virus will become the predominant strain all over the world, the rate at which it is spreading. So our concern is that how is it going to behave? And for that, we still have insufficient evidence. What we know is that, it's highly transmissible. Delta was bad enough. It is worse. So it is transmitting very badly. Now, immune escape is the other thing. So what that means is the vaccination is not going to protect us against infection by this virus completely, right? We don't know whether they are completely ineffective. We don't know whether they are completely effective. We know that there is some immune escape. That may not be a cause for panic, but it is definitely cause for a surveillance and alarm, not for panic.
Right. You say, sir, it's a time, of course, when we need to be at our best COVID appropriate behavior. And of course, the intention is not to spread panic. But so when you already have two cases of a new variant like this breaking out in India, and one of the cases, as we know, is a doctor who had no history of foreign travel or had not mingled with anyone who had come from South Africa or abroad. Could it mean that the variant is perhaps not coming now from abroad? It's already spread. How are you interpreting, the information which is pouring in now, sir?
So I agree, because the only way to confirm the existence of a variant is by genome sequencing. And we know there's a limitation to which we can do genome sequencing. And I had written long time back an article in which I had said that genome sequencing, and I think it's more than 1 year now, when the genome sequencing was in its prime, that whenever there are outbreaks, we need to look at them to see whether it's something new which has evolved and which caused this cluster of infections or an outbreak of infections.
Right.
So there has been a similar thought from many other countries where they had isolated the variant before the South Africa declared it. See, South Africa detected this variant after genome sequencing. But I would be surprised if it has been going around for some time. Now, there has been a geometric rise in the cases in South Africa, but there's a problem with the African continent, threefold problem. One, their testing has not been so large and so widespread. Now, their vaccination has been very limited, and then the African continent has a large number of people who are immunosuppressed, whether because of HIV or other problems. So Yeah.
Sir, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you since you spoke of vaccination, sir. And this is the big worry, and I'm bringing it to a more Indian context, sir. Most of us, I'm speaking more of urban areas, are vaccinated, double jabbed. Of course, there's a large population which is yet to be jabbed. And there is an ethical debate when we speak of booster. But would you say that at this point, when you have, of course, a new variant coming with, of course, these quote unquote, just quoting the government of India, horrible mutation, at that time, do you think perhaps it's time that the government of India acts faster on booster shots?
So let's take a look at this in a proper perspective, in a very balanced way.
Yeah.
One thing is, it occurs, it has, the data from South Africa has shown that those who were immunized had minor illness, right? So that means, and those who were not immunized had still needed hospitalization. So even if you get infected, if you are immunized, you are better off than a person who's not immunized and gets the infection. So first thing first, first thing is that we have to immunize all those people who have not been immunized, and we have to give the second jab to those who have had only one dose. So that's point number one. And the reason is very clear, even if in spite of Omicron, because if you are completely vaccinated and you have escaped this infection, this breakthrough infection, you are not as much at a risk as a person who's unvaccinated. Number two is, when we are talking about booster, those who are vaccinated or those who have had infection in India, we have a very high seropositivity. We have a large population. We have large circulating levels of antibodies in the different sero surveys. So whether giving another booster of the same platform or the same kind of vaccine will do anything in addition or not. So one thought process is that if at all, as and when, even if we think of booster, whether it is the wise decision to give the same vaccine as a booster, which you have given two platforms. So maybe one of the newer vaccines, like the nasal vaccines for Bharat Biotech, or some of the newer platforms, or at least a different platform vaccine will be more effective. So here we, and third thing is that breakthrough infections are largely to mRNA vaccines, which have hardly been given or not given in India. So let us first see whether the breakthrough infections are as common with Indian vaccines as they are with them. So, we may be, it is good to be cautious, but I may say with cautious optimism that we may be overreacting till the time we have more data, but we have to be definitely on the guard. We have to up our antennae, the surveillance. We have to make every effort to make, because of a simple reason, that even if it does not kill, if the hospitalizations increase, then we don't want it to become something that gets out of hand. So if we follow all these things, even if it is destined to become the predominant strain all over the world, if we handle a lesser dose at a time, we'll get more time to react to it, to make preparations, and to see how it behaves, rather than just letting a large number come into us which we can't handle. And we also don't know things like long COVID. So even if everybody says the symptoms are very mild, we say that it doesn't cause hospitalization, it doesn't cause death. What about the long COVID, which becomes a disability in the long term? We don't know what is going to be the long COVID with this one. So considering everything, we have to protect ourselves. We have to have greater surveillance. We have to have greater genome sequencing for all the suspected areas. We have to keep on to the mask, and we have to really accelerate our vaccination drive.
Right. And you said so rightly, sir, considering, of course, we have the Christmas New Year time also coming, which is when people also generally like to celebrate and mingle in larger crowds. But, you spoke of two important things, sir. One on vaccination, another on hospitalization. Since we're speaking on vaccination, I'd like to ask you a question on that first, sir. Far as vaccination is concerned, what do we know about this mutation's ability to overcome the immunity which vaccination provides us? What do we know on that front, or is there not enough data on that?
So there is all the data which has come from that is mainly from South Africa, because that's where the main cases are. And the three vaccines which they have used are the mRNA by Pfizer, the vaccine by Johnson & Johnson, and the AstraZeneca. So one is that, you can't extrapolate that data to Indian population, where there's a large, seropositivity in the population, and a vaccination drive which has large taken up. Second thing, this data does not pertain to the Indian vaccines. like I said before. So what they are saying is that not that it does not protect, they are saying it's 30% less effective or 40% less effective at preventing infection. So we have always known, we have always said that vaccines do not protect you against infection. They protect you against hospitalization and death and ICU admission. Only thing is that this is suddenly shot into prominence because of its very high transmission and a rising number of infection. See, you have a common cold breakout, 1,000 people or 100,000 people get common cold, nobody gets into panic. Here we are talking about what if even a small percentage of them starts needing hospitalization, then our healthcare system may not be
So
taken
since you
apart.
speak of hospitalization, I want to speak of a very specific point. There is a very scary study, to say the least, which has come in today, which suggests that a large number of children under 5 are getting affected by this mutant. What South African government is also now saying that a large number of toddlers are requiring hospitalization. That's the data emerging from South Africa. Of course, that's sent alarm bells ringing all over the world, especially in India. Would you say our healthcare system is apt to take care in case we have large number of infant and toddler hospitalization? Because last time we depended very highly on the natural immunity of children to fight this infection, sir.
So I don't see any reason why this cannot be fought by children. Number one. Number two, there is a high seropositivity in children also. Number three, I would like to again tell you, Delta was so highly infectious that in the second wave, there were hardly any households where one person got infected and rest of the family did not get infected, right? And the same thing applies to children. If the parents got infected, it's very unlikely that children did not get the infection.
Yeah.
Still, the death rate or the hospital, even in the COVID hospital, in the trauma center, only those children were admitted, and we lost those children who had major comorbidities like liver failure, like childhood cancers, children who were just like adults, very prone to not make it once getting infected by COVID. So the children have been exposed. Children have the antibodies. They are seropositive, and second thing, we have not yet got conclusive proof that this is more dangerous. See, we are upping our guard because now we have been into the pandemic for close to 2 years. And that is why it is extremely important for us to now preempt or try to preempt or at least apply the principles we know already from our experience of 2 years to check this problem. And one of the things we have always said is, like it said that the mask is vaccine in your pocket. If you have a mask on you, it protects you against infection like a vaccine does. And we know that Delta was problem in indoors. So if this is 5 times more infective and transmissible than Delta, all the more reason for you to be careful indoors. So having banquet halls where people are having food together in a reception or a party are the things which we have to avoid till that time we know. It may, and I'm saying with cautious optimism, turn out to be something less lethal than Delta, then it will become a blessing in disguise. Because Delta has created havoc all over the world. Suppose we have a virus which replaces it completely, but does not kill or does not cause so much of ICU admission, it will be a blessing to have this. So that's why we have to carefully watch what its behavior is among unvaccinated populations, among vaccinated population, among populations where has been a large exposure to the native virus with the natural infection, with the natural immunity, which some people believe is also quite protective. So those are the things we have to watch for. And I think at this point of time, the thing is one, you observe universal precautions at all costs. Number two, don't go for rumors, just like we had it earlier on in the pandemic. Trust only the data coming out from the reliable and authentic organizations. 3, avoid all unnecessary gatherings and follow the physical distancing. The 4th is that you have to keep the vaccination drive in the fast mode and keep on vaccinating more and more people. Because, and then of course it goes without saying, we have been augmenting our infrastructure. We have to keep it in readiness. But then, let's hope that this is something, because you must remember one thing, it is counterintuitive for a virus to kill all its hosts, right? If everybody dies, then how is the virus going to survive? So in nature, that can't happen. So if it becomes transmissible and lethal, 5 times more transmissible than Delta and lethal like Delta or the worst strain, eventually it will wipe out the human race. That can't happen because it has tried to evolve itself in order to, I hope, live with humankind in the human race, so that both of them can coexist, as we have been saying, to become endemic, keep on nurturing or feeding on a group of people. And then about the children vaccination, I will still say that we will eventually have to vaccinate children. Only thing, in the pandemic, it is the risk benefit ratio we don't know yet, because very small number of children have actually died due to pandemic. It's not a killer disease in children. We have to remember that. Yeah. But eventually, when the disease becomes pandemic, maybe there'll be a time when there'll be a vaccination for COVID for children, when they are going for their other vaccinations. So that they get an immunity which lasts them whatever time the vaccine is effective for, just like we vaccinate them to protect against other diseases. So eventually we will step in, but in the peak of pandemic, of course, we always think those who have not been vaccinated remain vulnerable, right? That is our worry about the children. That's what the parents who don't get vaccination themselves want the vaccination for their children, because they are worried. But we must remember that even children have been exposed. There's a very high seropositivity, and the death rate in adults is much higher due to pandemic than it is for the children.
All right. So point taken. So as far as, of course, the viewers are concerned, there is a lot of advice coming from Dr. Malhotra. Mask up, follow social distancing. The pandemic is not over. COVID is not gone anywhere. And I really hope that as we, close the show, that your cautious optimism is on point. And I hope, of course, it does not become lethal. Extremely transmissible virus, nothing to worry, don't panic. But yes, at the same time, do not give up on COVID protocol. That's the message coming for our viewers today. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.